Welcome to Flesh and Pod, a flesh and blood podcast, breaking down weekly news and notes from the tournament scene, community drama, game strategy, and more. And now, here are your hosts, Darick and Logan.
Hello, and welcome to episode 98 of Flesh and Pod. My name is Logan. I am your host, and with me, as always, is Gojira himself. Or herself? I don't actually remember. Darick Oswald. Charmer. Why do I ask? Just did you?
In terms of gameplay, if you're asking about what I did in Flesh and Blood this week, I was unable to make my armory. I did spend a bunch of time registering for my upcoming ProQuest events, which it turns out was a good thing because of news we're going to talk about later. But also, I started my planned preparation for the calling in Barcelona. So I picked up
case of bright lights.
Picked up a case of bright lights here. See, so that I can try to get some drafts in, get some sealeds. Even considering doing something where I kind of do a practice pod. So like in my mind, it would be like the equivalent of doing like a goldfish practice for Magic, but instead for drafting. Like I was considering doing stuff where I get some folks on a Discord call and open a pack and then just say like, all right, what's your pick one, your pick two, whatever, go down the line just to see, kind of like what general consensus is, etc. And I find a lot of value in that personally, just because even if you don't necessarily agree with other people, it's really helpful to know what other people value so that you are more capable of predicting what will wheel and what won't. Anyway, this is the beginning. Obviously, we have ProQuest season, which also has some limited events that I'm hoping to hit, but we're starting the grind now.
Yeah, we drafted Bright Lights on Thursday here, and there was a lot of conversations. I took home the cold foil, not to brag, but we were talking about valuing, like, where do you value the Evo equipment if you're trying to go that route? That was one of the major conversations. It's like, where the full question was, where in your pick order are the red Evo equipments? And I'm like, pretty fucking high. Because they're bases.
If you're playing it on Teklo, anyway.
Yeah, because they're bases. And so you get to block for 2, scrap them, block for one if you end up with a base, like a Teklo base piece of equipment for that as well. Block for 1, then snap that equipment back onto there, and then block for 2 again. You're getting 5 block effectively out of that card. Like, that's a lot. That's really good. And then
I was pretty consistently getting the full 9 out of the single blue Evo Soul that I had in my pre-release.
Oh, sure.
Like I got the Evo Soul helm and I was like, all right, block from hand, scrap it, play it, get 3, get 2, get 1, overwrite it as an instant. It was so much value.
Yeah, it's insane amounts of value. And so that's where I was talking, like, the base, because they're bases, it's really important. And then from there, your next pick order really is the stuff that lets you banish cards underneath them for an ability, because then you have 2 bites at the apple to go along with that base if you get it planned out right. It's like the one that gives a quicken token, for example, in a format that can go to fatigue very quickly. Having to not boost for a go again twice is monumental. It is so good.
Are you talking about the Cogworks equipment?
Yeah. No, not the Cogworks. The Evo that allows you to banish a card from under it to create a quicken token.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yep. That one's not a base. Gotcha.
No, it's how you finish it. You finish your stack with it.
Sorry. I thought you were talking about the Cogworks stuff that you use in place of the token equipment to attach your bases to, because I also in my pre-release, I had the one that allowed you to shuffle something back into your deck, and I got so much value out of that, again because the games were going long, right? So
100%. And so that's been very interesting, kind of dissect the draft, because there are some cards that just are the value on the card is never changing. So all the 3-for-7s are 3-for-7s in every deck, and a 3 for 7 is just good and limited, right? So it goes back to the WTR principle of, where do you take these 3 for 7s? And in this case, like, yeah, everybody gets access to them. And then you look at your 1 for 4s, 1 for 5s, and then like I almost got just utterly wrecked. And then this one went to fatigue because I really had to like set the game plan up for it to work. But my opponent, my good friend Dom, was playing. He got rev up, and he would rev me up. I'm like, okay, rev up is it's a lot. That's some damage. I got to be aware of this. But then he's like, he's playing max, and then he's like, okay, crank, make a hyperdriver, crank it, boost, resource, red backup protocol, return the rev, and then attack with the rev up again. And I'm like, okay, well, this sucks to deal with again. He did it 4 fucking times. And I'm just like, are you shitting me right now? How the fuck do I mitigate this? And it was only because of the Evo equipment allowing me to keep cards that I got out of that. And, and also making the Quicken tokens. I think I was down to like 3 cards in deck or 2 cards in deck when I finally got him to be out. And I had 1 piece of Evo equipment left, so I could just swing the leveler to end the game. It's like, Jesus, that's an engine and a half. Fuck. And that was really rough to fight through. And I'm like, okay, I learned something. There is a way to build max and limited that is really difficult to fight through. So there's a lot of play in this draft format, and I think people are just beginning to explore it now. And there's been some hot takes out there about how it's a bad draft, and I just don't see it. I've found this to be very deep and very good.
I think that it very much. I think that the opinions on whether it's a fun or a bad format to draft largely depend on what you are emphasizing when you are drafting, right? Sure. If you are emphasizing the niche interactions where you can maximize your gains, I think that it's a very fun set to draft. It feels like every pick has weight. If you are somebody who, at least as far as limited goes, look at what I would call like the core basics, like you were saying, the 3 for 7s, right? The text doesn't matter as much as the inherent value. In those cases, I think the set can feel very lackluster because there are a lot of cards that are very similar. And so if you're not emphasizing the text on it for the niche situation, it's going to feel not as fun, right? So I see both sides of the coin and I understand it. I personally have enjoyed my time with it thus far. It kind of makes me want to tinker around with the new dash in Constructed, because I think that now that I've got some more time playing her, it's weird. I think she might be my favorite of the 3 to play in Limited, and so I think that's why I'm drawn to maybe trying to build her or test or something her for Constructed, but she's also very hard, I think, to pilot in Limited.
No, 100%. Very hard.
I think she's also the most fun. So like it's very difficult. I think that if you end up as like the only one at your table, then you're looking pretty good.
You're in a good spot.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm so torn on this, right? There's a part of me that wants to do the Uprising strategy, right? Uprising, it didn't matter what my pack was, like I just forced Fi. It's not because I didn't think the other heroes were not viable. I was just comfortable with that gameplay. For this set so far, the one I'm most comfortable with is Teklavasen, because I've got a bunch of games on Bravo. I know how to play the fatigue game. And I think that, with the right card pool, he can absolutely make people want to pull their hair out.
Oh yeah, no, 100%.
But I'm trying very hard to not like pigeonhole my strategy, right? I'm at least right now for practice purposes trying to make sure I put an emphasis on, okay, what do successful builds of the other ones look like? Because when I think about like my early experiences, one of the things, so like when I was playing during Tales of Aria, right? One of the things I was drawn to is Rune Blade, and I was like, all right, I'm just going to jam Briar. That was going to be my Uprising game plan. Briar was my Fi. I was going to play her no matter what. And then I took a moment. I was like, okay, like what happens if I want to play Lexi and what does that look like in a limited format? And then like something clicked for me and I ended up actually preferring her over the other two.
Yep.
And I found some stuff that worked very well for me. And it sticks out to me because not only did it work well for me, but then I remember the morning of one of the calling events, I think it was Cincinnati, because my good friend and fellow caster Casanova from Runeterra was there as well. I remember saying to him in the morning, I was like, hey, I think Lexi can be good, but I think you don't build her the way everyone thinks. I was like, everyone thinks you draft all the red arrows, and I don't think that's the case.
Nope.
I was
Dumpster
like,
Lexi. Use
I
go
was
again.
I was like, hey, the lightning stuff is really good, right?
Mhm.
Like the what is it, the 1-for-5 that blocks for 3 lightning attack? I was like, that's
Yep.
just an E-strike if it's coming from your arsenal, right? Like,
Well, and then also just lightning surge. It's a 0-for-4 go again.
yeah, I was like, there's a bunch of stuff, and at the time, because again, this was very early, the consensus was like, hey, it's Ranger, you just jam as many red arrows as possible. So I was talking about this, and then I was really excited to play her, and then I had an absolute garbage pool for her, so I didn't get a chance to do it. But Casanova opened it, and he ended up doing really well. I think he just bubbled out at day 2, but he was like in contention all day long, and he was like, man, if we hadn't been talking about this morning, I would have had no idea what to do. And
Yeah,
so
like,
I tell this long-winded story just to say, like, that's what I'm looking for. I'm kind of hoping that one of the other two click for me as a option outside of Teklo, because I think that there's going to be a lot of people. Like, I fully expect out of the draft pods that there's going to be like 4 or 5 Teklos per draft pod.
well, that's the insane thing, right? So like in this, we had it was a short pod. It was only 5 players, right? So a small draft pod. And the funny part was that the draft was fine. Most of the time in a 5-player draft pod, it's an atrocious draft because, you know, you have multiple classes, there's not enough cards to go around, there's got people playing baubles or whatever. Nope, everybody was able to play their entire pile and everybody had a viable deck. It felt like a draft. It didn't feel like, you know, since we're short 2 people for this to feel like, you know, it was an impactful draft. No, it felt like a real draft with 5 people, and that's again a tribute to that whole thing. And if we're talking about that, you know, where sometimes in these larger events or whatever, there ends up being short pods. Ends up being a solution for those pods to not be as bad as far as the draft goes. They just don't feel awful. And that's a good thing. I think they did a good job with that. I would assume it's intentional, but you know,
No,
sometimes you
they just got
back into
lucky.
things. Yeah, that's possible. Like it is entirely possible. So there is that. But yeah, I thought it was fun. I thought it was a good time. I have a cold foil leveler now to go with my Teklo daddies or whatever. So yeah, it's a good time. But moving on, I got a message on Twitter today from a friend of the podcast, Clark, and because I was ready to come into this show with a fucking flamethrower, and he's like, and the question was, "Have you recorded yet?" I'm like, "No." It's like, okay, because there's no Pro Tour announcement. I know, I know. And I am ready to burn this place to the fucking ground because we're about to start ProQuest and we don't know where the Pro Tour is. So I've been revving up all day long. No pun intended. Fuck you. No pun intended. I have been just ready to fire away.
You've been getting cranked.
I've been getting cranked up. And the crankshaft was going. But any rate, I was ready and I was willing and I was able and I was sitting down for some dinner, and then all of my notifications were blowing up because the Pro Tour announcement came out. And I'm like, for once, I am very happy to not have to rant.
Yeah.
Normally I do covet the rant. I enjoy a good rant. I enjoy blowing off the steam, you know? I enjoy just firing away at will and just seeing what happens. But this time, nope. We have the Pro Tour announcement. We are about to enter ProQuest season knowing the dates and locations of what we're qualifying for, which is not normal.
Yeah.
But this is also LSS making good on a promise that the type of shit that happened for Worlds and with the last Pro Tour and everything else was not going to happen again. And here we are. We know that the Pro Tour 4, the first Pro Tour of 2024, will be in sunny Los Angeles, California, on March 21st through the 24th. Obviously, it's going to be classic constructed with heavy hitters draft. So we'll get to that here in a moment as well. And there will also be a calling and a battle hard. And I am super excited to have the Pro Tour in kind of shitty weather season in the Midwest in Los Angeles, where it's not 1,000,000,000 degrees in Los Angeles and still really nice. I think that this is a W. Like all across the board, I think that this is a big win. Granted, my travel schedule, if I do end up at the Pro Tour, which is currently the plan, regardless if I qualify, but I am going to try my ass off to qualify. But as of right now, my travel plans would be go on like March 13th or 14th to Guadalajara, be in Guadalajara until the 17th. The 17th, then from the 17th, fly to Phoenix, be in Phoenix for 17th through like the 20th, and then on the 20th, fly to LA and be in LA for the Pro Tour. Right. It's almost as bad as January, where I'm going to fly to Orlando and then hop on the Realm cruise and then stay in Orlando for a few days and at a villa, and then fly back home and potentially get on an airplane to fucking New Zealand, which we'll talk about that shortly. So while it lines up very interestingly with my travel schedule, I am super hype. I do believe I absolutely would want to be there. I'm going to do everything in my power to make it. So what do you think? Where are you at on this, Darick?
I was already really excited for this ProQuest season anyway, because I just wanted to go back to putting an emphasis on events for a bit. Like, it'd been a while since I really dove in, and I was really looking forward to it, even before I knew where it was. Now I'm incredibly excited. Los Angeles is a fantastic spot. One, the West Coast kind of gets some love outside of, the One Worlds. There hasn't been a lot of the bigger or more marquee events out that way. That's been kind of a common complaint of friends I have that play Flesh and Blood that are on that side. So they're very excited. I obviously have friends that live on the West Coast. I would love to see them all again, whether I qualify or not. So I would also plan on making the trip, but I am going to try very hard to qualify. I would like to participate. The only way that I would qualify and not play, so like if I qualify, I'm going to go. The only way I would qualify and not play would be if I qualified and then somebody tragically got sick at the last moment and they needed me to cast, because, like, let's be honest, they're not going to hire me up front, so it would have to be an emergency. But
you'd also have to promise to quit the show. You couldn't. There's no way they would allow you to be on this podcast.
I mean, I love you, but I am out if they let me cast.
Oh, I know. I know where I rank. I am well aware.
All jokes aside, because like I said, I'm not going to get to cast, but I would. That's like the only way that I would skip out on playing in one way, shape, or form. But I'm very excited. I think the timing is perfect. LA in March, as somebody who doesn't like heat, is very acceptable to me. I don't want to be there in like July or August.
Nope.
I've been out there a bunch of times. Like I said, I have friends. I would love to see them. I would also like to use this as an opportunity, because I have a lot of folks that are out there that play like Legends of Runeterra or other card games, and I plan on using this as a, hey, why don't you come to the Flesh and Blood thing? Like, even if you're not going to play in the Pro Tour, come play in some side events, come down for a day, like show up and I'll teach you the game, whatever the case may be. So I just think that there's a lot of potential good to come from this. But
100%. I was just thinking of that too. It's like, man, I got friends in Burbank. I have friends that, that are up and down the coast a little bit. That would just, it's a quick hitter to get to LA, quick-ish hitter to get to LA. Like, there's so many just little things that I'm like, man, that's a good spot, a good time of year to just go hang. Like, I could, if I get there a day early, I could maybe find out what my buddy James is up to and just go to fucking Disneyland with him, because he has season passes to Disneyland. And
oh my, you just reminded me. This year I'm supposed to be potentially taking my kids on what would be their spring break out to the West Coast to do Disneyland. We've done Disney World, but we have never done Disneyland, and they have the Avengers campus that Disney World doesn't have. I I was already talking to Sophie about us potentially doing that during their spring break, which is usually at the end of March. As like, because Monroe's birthday is March 26th,
Yep.
Stark's is in May, so we usually do something for both of them. But we were like, hey, what if we do like a trip and we just do a big family thing together, blah blah blah. Anyway, depending on when this aligns, there might be a case for me to like just have everybody come out, and then I'll play in this, and then if it aligns with what their spring break is, I might just stay there for the week after.
Yeah, right.
And do Disneyland.
Yeah. Or go the week before and then send the family home and then stay. Or the family stays and they do other things in the greater Los Angeles area. I mean, like, there's the possibilities are endless.
Star Wars Unlimited comes out on March 8th, and I'm sure I'm going to be doing stuff for that, obviously, because I do the show with Flake and Doa, and I'm very excited for that game as well. But that would give me an excuse to go to Galaxy's Edge and potentially, like, if I'm out there, just like film a bunch of ridiculous
content
stuff.
Yeah,
just content.
Yep, 100%.
There's a lot of things lining up here. I think I like this.
Yeah, it's coming up Millhouse. Like, that would be a weird one because I think in January I'll probably end up at Disney World because if I remember correctly, looking at like the different things for Disney World in January, there's nobody fucking there. Like, it's free.
Yeah, like second week of January is the ideal. You get a bunch of people that do like Christmas and even like New Year, because they're just like, let's not do holiday. And so weirdly enough, there's like a decent amount. It's like going to a movie theater on Christmas Day. You're like, oh, it'll be fine, and then it's packed for some reason. But like the second week of January,
we're going second week of January, right?
So
that'll be perfect. So I might end up at both U.S. based Disney parks this year. That'd be crazy, but also expensive. But yeah, I think this is good. I like this so far. We'd be sort of in like 3 floatings home turf too, and getting those. We would have people that we could ask for, hey, if I wanted something dope to eat, where would I go? And they would just be like having a little bit of not a tour guide, but somebody that knows the lay of the land for recommendations is always nice too. And we definitely had that in Baltimore, where we had a couple of people that are natives or frequent visitors that were able to tell us, some good spots. That was always nice to have. We don't count Pittsburgh because they don't have anything we'd call cuisine or roads. They're kind of just, lacking in both. So we're just going to go ahead and not talk about that one. But although they do have a Battle Hardened coming up soon.
I know that it's not exactly a, ma and pop type restaurant. It's like the equivalent of like a Fogo, if you will. Like it's a chain, but it's not a chain. But the last time that I was in LA for like Runeterra stuff, I had some of the best dumplings I've ever had at DTF, Din Tai Fung. So there's one of those out there that's fantastic.
DTF, like dick to floor or down to fuck?
Din Tai Fung.
Oh,
it's a dumpling place. But
I do love dumplings. They are like my favorite.
And it was really good. Like even my wife, like, who's not necessarily a big dumpling fan, ate them, and then for like 3 months afterwards, every time we left the house at home, she's like, we need to find a dumpling place near here. It like converted her. So
yeah, I mean, dumplings can be a religious experience, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And also like, because there was to be a calling and a Battle Hardened and such at, in LA during that event. So it's like, if you're not qualified, there's still reasons to go. Plus, they're going to have all the accoutrements that they always have at Pro Tours, like cosplay contests and all the side events that you could ever want. Artist Alley, maybe a Swarty will be there.
I was going to say, I also believe the article said something about like limited merch.
Yeah, limited merch.
Limited edition merch or limited time merch or something. So
like the playmats they had in Baltimore.
Well, I mean, it could be that, but it's just interesting that they actually said merch. And I know that
they don't do merch.
Podcast, well, I was going to say, we on this podcast, we've been screaming for forever, like, just give me a t-shirt, right? Like, give me something. So maybe we're finally getting our wish.
Give me not wish.com.
No.
But, okay, good. Because that would probably be a very lackluster t-shirt. Just kind of saying. Something we alluded to earlier is that there is a calling in Queenstown, New Zealand in January. and it is Heavy Hitters Sealed. Now, this is the first time that we've got the name of that set. It is, as people kind of speculated, looks like it is set in the arena that we see in the most recent Brute card that was in Bright Lights. And I would imagine we're going to have a very like Brute Warrior weapon centric set, which obviously I'm very much here for as a kind of a Kasai stan. I'm really hoping this is where we get adult Kasai, like 100%. Like that's just my hope. But this looks like to be a very interesting event, which is why I was considering actually ponying up the $1,500 to $1,800 or whatever it is round trip to go to New Zealand, because there's an invite only event, which obviously we're not invited to. That trip is probably very sailed, but there's also the sealed calling there, and that in and of itself, I kind of want to go to the home, of the home country of the game. Plus New Zealand's, everybody says, is like one of the most gorgeous places on earth. And unlike Australia, it's not a PSYOP. So the Charmer believes that Australia doesn't exist.
No, it very much exists. Are you kidding me? Like, I have family out there.
You were literally just telling me 2 days ago. Not 2 days ago, fucking yesterday.
Are you literally trying to say that I would lie to you?
Yes, I am. Because you would.
I don't know what you're talking about,
motherfucker. God, son of a. All right. So, and people see like all the LSS friends that we've made and everybody else that we don't get a chance to see, that we have sort of these weird. I mean, weird's the wrong word. Sort of these parasocial relationships with, because we know them online, but we've never met them in real life. So Melody, Kiki, some of the Australian and New Zealand players and people that we've just never come in contact with, but we've talked to, that would be awesome. I would absolutely love to go and do that. And I think it's really good that the game is putting a premier sort of spotlight event in New Zealand, because it's their 5th year, right? It's the 5th anniversary on October 11th. Flesh and Blood will turn 5 years old next year. Yeah. And that's awesome.
So, I mean, you're talking to somebody who, I don't remember if it was on this podcast or if it was when we were guests on somebody else's, but I remember we were asked the question about like, what would your dream event be? Or I think we were asked like, what would you want to see for like the World Championship or something like that? And I said specifically, like, I want New Zealand. I want the homecoming event, right? I wanted the big marquee thing in the backyard, really show things off. And then they went and they announced this, right? Like, if I wasn't already going to Barcelona, I would be easily booking this right now. The hardest part, as I was telling you before we started recording, is that I don't know if I could get the time off in such a short time between taking a big chunk off for Barcelona to then also go to New Zealand, because it's not like I could go to New Zealand for 2 days. And just hell no. But also just like, let's just say hypothetically, if I said to myself, like, yeah, I can get like 2 days off of work, that's not a problem. I can go for 2 days, except for that's like a 6 days off because it takes forever to travel to New Zealand.
It's a 28-hour travel time from here.
It is 2 days of travel essentially to and from. So
yeah,
that is
42 hours for me. So it's
so anyway, that is weighing very heavily on me. I mean, I would make it work if I had a reason to go. As you said, we are not invited, but if I was, I would like arguably quit my job.
I'd be like, I would legit quit my job.
Just to make sure I could make the event.
But I don't have kids at home. Yeah, that, rely on me for survival.
I'm very employable. Like I know that I am very like self-deprecating and whatever, but the reality is I have a pretty successful daytime career, and if I needed to find employment, I have no doubt that I could make it work.
I mean,
but
same here. Like I would have probably zero
in
issue
fact,
finding a job.
listen, if I left and went to the private sector, because I work for government because I'm this weird person with altruism and whatever. So I only normally work in government and nonprofit. But anyway, if I went to the private sector, I would double my salary anyway. So who knows?
Yeah, maybe you just do that. Maybe you should abandon the fake notion of altruism and go ahead. You might be the only person. You might be the single person in this world that could get me to believe in altruism. You might be it. Because when I think of altruism, basically as a concept of doing something with the expectation of nothing in return, effectively, right? I mean, obviously you're doing the job for money, but you're taking less money. So
yeah,
it's, okay, fine. I can get that. But every instance of altruism comes with a reward of some sort, whether it's just as simple as the dopamine hit for doing something good for somebody and the self-reward that that you did a good deed. That in and of itself negates the altruism of the act in my mind, because that you're going to get the dopamine hit, and that's a reason to do it. So I do believe, so I think that true altruism is not there.
Well, yeah, listen, there's no such thing as ethical capitalism, and there's no such thing as selfless altruism, right? Part of what I do is absolutely selfish. It is to make me less depressed. I don't want to go to work every day to make somebody else richer. And I would never be able to just start my own business because I'm just not scummy enough to be successful. Mentally, I understand it, but the reality is, if you're truly trying to be successful in business, because I've been around a lot of
capitalism,
successful business people, multi-million-dollar entrepreneurs, you name it, the rinse and repeat, start a startup, sell it, make loads of cash, whatever. I just wouldn't feel good doing the things that they do, right? So it's not for me. So the selfishness of my altruism is just that I sleep a little bit better. I get 3 hours of sleep instead of 2.5.
Okay, well, that's a trade-off, I guess.
Yeah,
that was a nice little nonsense. We took a detour there.
We're taking a detour on the way to New Zealand. That's pretty much it. The biggest problem, and this might be the saving grace, is that if I actually went to that event, I might not come home.
No, I probably wouldn't.
I would become the illegal immigrant.
Yeah, I probably live in New Zealand then. I just somebody's basement, maybe fuck off into the wild somewhere, just live in a shack if I can find one over in the hillsides. Great. I'd lose a ton of weight. I'd feel that would be nice, I guess, because I really wouldn't eat much, and I'd walk everywhere. But that's always think, as somebody who has always been a very, very large human, I always wondered, would I continue to be as large if I lived in another country? And my assumption is always no. Because
I can tell you that I ate a lot on both my trips to Iceland and both of the times that I went to Ukraine. I did not, stick to my normal rigid diets or whatever. And both times I still lost weight just because of the sheer amount of walking and activity and whatever. And also just the food's better.
Right. I mean, I ate my way through India and dropped 15 pounds in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I guess. Anyway, again, we took another detour. What do you know? It's a short show today anyway, or tonight anyway. So you know what? Fuck it. We'll take some detours.
I don't think you can say it's a short show when we're 33 minutes in already.
Listen. Short is relative.
Short on relevant flesh and blood content. Long on waxing about the food and experiences of international travel.
As long as we don't start waxing about waxing, we'll be fine.
I think we should wax about waxing and then put it on wax, as they say.
I think I hate everything that you just said. Mostly the waxing on wax.
Yeah.
Mostly. That's
You know,
the
it's a
top
great
of
source
it.
of wax. Bees
Bees.
in a trap.
Yeah. Bees are a good source of wax. Moving on, we did have the Calling Taipei
Yes, we
this
did.
weekend. There was a Battle Hardened too, but it was a sealed Bright Lights Battle Hardened, so not a lot to cover there for the hero perspective. Just generally speaking, it's early Bright Lights draft, so at the back end for the top 8 or whatnot. So not a ton to really talk about there.
I think the most noteworthy bit is the representation for mechanologists was off the charts.
Way up there, and you are that person, you know that, right?
Yeah,
That makes that joke.
He is him.
He is him. But the Calling Taipei was won by Justin Koo on Azalea, beating Nick Butcher on Dromai in the finals. So I'm going to repeat that. Justin Koo, that part is very important, but that's not the shocking part. On Azalea, won over Nick Butcher on Dromai.
Yeah.
Okay. The top 8, for those who are wondering, was 3 Lexis, as expected, a Bravo,
Mm-hmm.
an Azuri.
Yeah.
Yep. The aforementioned Dromai, the aforementioned Azalea, and a fucking Rhinar.
Yeah.
So we got, outside of Lexi, taking 3 spots yet again, we're diverse. I like that. I think that's good. Still no mechanologist showing up in a calling in Asia is something I don't even know if we've ever not seen a dash in a top 8 in a calling in Asia. I would have to go look, but it's normally like we see Dash winning these a lot.
Yeah, it's going to sound weird, right? But I think that's because of bright lights.
You think that it's diluting the pool and people are kind of spreading out?
I think it's both a dilution of the pool, but also, hear me out, mechanologist prior to bright lights was kind of a mostly solved formula. Like, yeah, you have your diehards, but they've been playing variations of the same list for a long time. And then those diehard players just got a slew of new cards and 3 new potential heroes.
And
right?
They're trying to parse it.
So it's them maybe not on refined lists, trying something new, trying to add new cards to their existing list. Even though you just got a bunch of potential new support, I think that it's so soon after that none of that stuff is refined. So it's interesting, but I actually think that that's because of bright lights and that we'll see that go back to normal over time.
Yeah, I agreed. That would make a lot of sense to me. Or we'll go back to normal. We'll have refined IO lists or max lists or whatever.
Well, right. When I say normal, I mean like just mechanologist representation. It might not be, old school Dash or whatever, but like those same people that were diehards will start popping back up again.
Yeah, no, that's true. I really love the Azalea win here. We saw an Azalea win over Dromai is also just very interesting. But
yeah,
when you're looking at the Azalea having to go potentially through a Bravo and an Uzuri, that's a lot for them to cut through. So pretty impressive. Again, Azalea's matchup into Lexi, from what I understand, is pretty good. And that's one of the reasons to play Azalea into these tournaments that are getting more and more and more Lexi, Lexi oriented.
Mm-hmm.
But I am fascinated, and I need to go back and watch the game that Justin was able to get over the top on Dromai. Now, anything can happen, right? And Dromai is not such a heavy favorite that this is an outlier, but it's odd. But I need to go watch that again, because as somebody who's probably going to be looking to play a little bit of Dromai in the ProQuest season, decided to just become a cop, I guess.
I mean, Red in the Ledger is a hell of a card.
Red in the Ledger is a hell of a drug. And if you start hitting, the Dromai deck doesn't do much if it starts hitting. Now, granted, they can do some really nasty shit if they hit, like if they have a Tumultai or whatever, or if there's a Chromai on the board, that also causes
Yeah.
a problem potentially, that you'd have to get that gone before the red in the ledger matters, because the chromite is going to generate action points. So there's still a lot of push and pull in this matchup. And so I'm very interested. I'm gonna have to go watch this, but yeah, red in the ledger is a hell of a drug. It really is. So I am
Yeah, I
interested.
was going to say, I thought, and I wanted to double check, but that the reason I mentioned red in the ledger is that even with all the chromite stuff, it doesn't matter. It's not about action points. It's literally, if they hit a hero, they can't play or activate more than one action during their next turn. So it doesn't
Oh
matter how
shit,
many
doesn't
action
matter
points you
then.
have.
Yeah,
It just says
shuts them
no.
down. Yeah,
So that's why I was saying, like with
Yeah.
Tome running wild and whatever. Now again, I like you. I haven't actually seen that matchup because you and I were casting an event this weekend, so I still have to catch up on my coverage. But I would wager that red in the ledger had a lot to do with that win.
Yeah, I would assume so. Dominated red in the ledgers would do a ton of work. Turns out the card's good. Shocking.
Yeah.
This weekend was a weird one because and I'm gonna just go ahead and anybody who's expecting to see me at Calling Dallas, you're most likely not going to see me. I did just drive 20 hours over the course of what was effectively 48 hours. So spent, the vast majority of a span of time driving, and doing that again doesn't sound really appealing today. I'm going to make that call tomorrow though, for sure. But it's a lot because we were in Ohio we were casting an Alpha Clash event at the Realm, and tons of fun. If you want to go to the Realm's YouTube page, I believe the VOD is up. You can go watch Charmer and I just make asses of ourselves, which you do that already weekly if you're listening to this show anyway. So I guess you get a double dose. And then also I played in a fucking Lorcana event, and I took 10th. It's a little weird because it felt like it was scratching the Magic the Gathering itch I still get on occasion without having to deal with Magic the Gathering, which feels really nice. I do feel bad. So I did two things made me feel sort of bad on the event. The first, I sit down for my first match. I play. It's a unfavored matchup. I didn't know if I was favored or not. I had no fucking idea. And I play this matchup and I win. And my opponent's like, "Whew, it's a rough matchup for you. Getting that victory is like kind of hard." He's like, "You must play this deck a lot." And I'm like, so this is my first match of Lorcana. Sorry. And he's like, "Holy shit." Okay. I'm like, "But I've been playing games forever. Like, this is just kind of a straightforward deck. I think I kind of got it." And then the last round I sit down, I notice that my opponent got paired down to me. And I'm like, okay, like maybe is this like a concede territory where I just say, GG, and the guy shuffles up. He doesn't say anything to me. And I'm like, okay, like that's fine. We can just play this. And then I end up winning and knocking him out of top 8. And I end up in 10th, but I end up knocking him out of top 8. But worse, prizes go down to 16th, and I put him in 17th place. So yeah, ouch. But fun. It's weird because you're running it off of Magic's tournament software, because there is no Lorcana tournament software or policies or anything else. So it's kind of the wild, wild west, which is in and of itself sort of fascinating. But we did those two things, and all the driving and shit just kind of like, oh God. And I would have to go run back basically that same drive again to go down to Dallas. The intent was to drive it because a couple people from Iowa were thinking about going, and now none are. So I would actually just take my wife with me, and we would go make a weekend of it. Since it's our anniversary weekend, we'd make a weekend of it in Dallas. But at the same time, we can just do stuff here, and it still feels pretty good. So that's the route we're going to take, is just stick here and do that. I am going to play in some Pro Quests, I think. I just haven't decided which ones, but that's much easier than driving, 10 and a half hours to Dallas Fort Worth, and then getting in late to a hotel because I can't take time off work right now, and then trying to play a Calling on very little sleep, and then try to play like a Battle Hardened on very little sleep, then like leave to drive 10 hours back. Like that's rough.
Yeah.
So we decided, nah, why? We'll save that for the next time I'm in Ohio, which we'll talk about soon again. But I do want to go over a couple other like little small pieces of news. First, we get the November Armory kit revealed, which, as everybody expected, was going to be one of the other cold foils of the weapons in Bright Lights. This time it's Symbiosis Shot. And the Rainbow Foil Extended Art is Soup Up, which is, again, beautiful. And the playmat is Evo Datamine. So one of the Evo helmets. Very nice looking mat. And then also just the standard Bright Lights mat. That'll be probably in every Bright Lights Armory kit. Which makes sense. Well, everything looks nice. Again, they tend to knock these out of the park when they do them. So it's not shocking that all of it looks great. The only ones I didn't really like the Angel ones in Bright Lights, and the Bright Lights weapons, or not Bright Lights, the Dust Till Dawn.
I knew what you meant.
Yeah, so did I, but maybe nobody else did. And I couldn't give a shit about the cold foil token weapons in Dust Till Dawn. Like, I just didn't care. Or I guess they weren't tokens, they were rare weapons, like Hellhammer.
You wanted the flail though, right?
I got that one.
Yeah.
But I got the flail, and that's the only one I really cared about. But these I do care about because they're, I love having draft bling. I really do. Is fun. Draft bling's fun. And so I have my cold foil proto equipments. I have all the rainbow foil young heroes. And now I just need cold foils of all the token weapons because I need my draft bling.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. I don't have cold foil hyperdriver tokens because I wasn't about to buy stuff from Star City. Like, that's about it.
Yeah. And then you probably would have got a warped one anyway with everything.
I was
seeing all the postings, but it was still frustrating me. Like I understand wanting to like be loyal to the stores that helped grow your game, but as a player, it's very frustrating when I'm incentivized to buy a case from Star City instead of my local game store. Now, yes, I can absolutely still go buy a secondhand promo, but it's just that fact of like I feel punished for it, right?
Yeah, right.
Like, I could have got something for free, but because I decided to support my local game store instead, I now have to go pay stuff out of pocket or whatever, right? And it's not, anyway. It just feels bad.
So, and then also in addition to the November Armory kit, stores will be getting a special trick or treat yourself they're tournament legal jack-o'-lantern promos. These are kind of just fucking neat.
No, these aren't fucking neat. These are amazing. I love these. Bravo. I love the art. The
art's insane. It's so good.
Listen, I know we just had that discussion, but this might be competing for my new favorite art in the game. I am a sucker for Halloween aesthetic.
Real shocker. Who's the artist?
Just a little known friend of the show.
It seems like every time we're gushing about shit, it's fucking Isuardi's art.
Yeah. No, I mean, I love this art piece. Like, I'm a sucker for the Halloween aesthetic. The like creepy house in the background. Don't know. It's interesting. Like, I assume it's a raven because most people default to ravens, but the beak reminds me of a crow beak.
A crow. Yep.
And I am a huge crow fan. Like, I like ravens too, but I'm like weird. Like, I literally have on my desk like little crows, right? Like, I love crows. So anyway, Isuardi, if you're listening, tell me whether it's supposed to be a raven or a crow. And then if it's a raven, lie to me and tell me it was supposed to be a crow anyway. But I love this art piece. The jack-o'-lantern, like on a stick, almost like pseudo scarecrow thing. The extended art, so you can see all the candles and whatever below. I want this as a playmat. I see in the kits that there's also supposed to be like a poster given out to the store. This might be the first time that I will like actually want one of the store posters. Like
Yeah,
depending on how they look,
I'll replace the framed Vin set with this one.
depending on how they look, I might try to get one of these from a local shop and frame it, because I love the art on this. It's fantastic. I just need more of it in my life.
It turns out our friends are dope.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what it comes down to. And they do really, really cool shit like this. Like this right here. This whole.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
I do genuinely. And also, the card is interesting. Like
it is. It is.
It you know, it's hard to gauge where Runeblade is right now, at the moment, but it's something that I think could definitely be playable, right?
Yes, I'm going to go ahead and just like read these off. So it's a rainbow. It's red, yellow, blue. These are very similar to the lanterns in what was it?
Well, of course,
Dynasty.
This is a lantern, Logan.
It
is a jack-o'-lantern.
It is. So there's 0 cost. Like I said, we're going to ignore that. They're yellow. They're rainbows. 2 block across the board. They're just simple 0 cost, go again, non-attack actions, which is nothing that a Shadow Runeblade would ever want. I mean,
no,
why would they ever?
Those? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and just no, why would they? And it simply says banish the top card of your deck. Remember, banishing the top card of your deck is a feature, not a bug.
Yep.
And if it's red, create a rune chant token for the red, then yellow for the yellow, blue for the blue. Fucking spectacular. This is just everything you want.
Yeah, I mean, we've got this really cool Living Legend format coming around the bend where you can still play Chain, and you know, it's probably not good enough just because having the full unbanned suite, it's going to be hard to find room in that list.
Yeah,
but I could see a world where if it's a future Chain, or if you're trying to go more aggressive with a Vin set build or whatever, you could consider jamming this in for sure.
It also can fit into Chain Blitz, which is very redline heavy.
Yes.
And also in, that plays the Rosetta Thorn. So it wants...
used to.
In Blitz, still does.
Oh, yeah, because she's still legal in Blitz.
Yep. In Blitz, still does. It's just better Briar in Blitz, which is actually asinine to say out loud. But yes, so this is easily, I think, a very good card when you're talking about playing it in Chain and Blitz. And it's also just kind of a hell of a Vincent card, just statically. Just full stop. And also they're just gorgeous. The way you get these is you have to purchase a booster box from a store that has these, that receive these. And every time, once per day, when you buy a booster box, you get a rainbow set of them. So you get a red, and a yellow, and a blue. Buy 3 boxes, spread it out over 3 days. You'll get yourself 3 of these. You'll have a full play set. There's probably a question in here that would be asked later, so we might as well answer it now. About, are you okay with printing promos that are obtainable as buy boxes as tournament legal if they're not available elsewhere?
I am okay with it as long as it is something that is one of 2 options, right? So in this case, this is not something that, like, it's playable, but it's not a high power level, like, must-have staple, right? So that's requirement number 1. The other requirement that would make me okay with it is something that we won't know for a little bit, but I'm okay with it as almost being like a preview or a teaser, where like if they do it and then within a couple of months it's also in the next set. So like if they put jack-o'-lanterns in the expansion slot of heavy hitters, for example, then I'm also fine with it. But usually, like, my rule of thumb is like as long as it's something that can be like playable but not, Enlightened Strike, Command and Conquer, Art of War levels of playable, then I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I'm okay with this for really one reason and one reason only. And that's because these can only be obtained from local game stores for in-store purchases only. So it's a
Yeah.
really nice support piece to reward the local game stores for carrying and selling and being advocates of the game. You know,
I mean, if I want to expound further, if you're somebody who's on the fence and you're like, hey, I don't know how I feel about this, let me put it to you a different way, right? This is no different than having tournament legal cards in Round the Table. This is no different than having tournament legal cards in the classic battles. This is still a product that you get as a player for making a purchase, right?
Correct.
Like full stop. This isn't a playable card that only winners get or only judges get, stuff like that, right? Like this is something where technically it's available to any player. You just have to make the purchase.
Correct.
The one thing that hurts is obviously the limited time window, which is why I was saying as long as it comes out in a reasonable amount of time after the fact as another way to obtain it, then I'm all good. Because maybe yes, it's purchasable, but like maybe you have stuff going on in your life and you miss the window, and then you don't want to be out of luck or have to hit the secondary market or whatever for blah blah blah. So
100%. So yeah, starting on October 28th is when you can receive these. So if anybody's wondering, when can I start getting these? Stores can start giving them out on October 28th to people who purchase boxes. So
yeah, so contact your local game store and tell them, I want to buy a case. Now I'm gonna pick each box up one at a time.
One at a time.
I'm gonna buy a case,
but I'm gonna buy a case,
right? And then that way you have this fun countdown, 28th, 29th, 30th, and 31st, so that you've got your full Halloween celebration spooky experience.
There you go. Sounds
and then
great.
You have a play set for you with one of each extra that you can trade to those less fortunate. Sounds like a plan.
Trade to the okay. You know what? I'm just gonna let that one hang. We mentioned this literally every episode, and I'm gonna do it again. The 20K Realm Invitational Weekend is the first weekend of December. There is a 20K multi-format invitational. If you have 80 points in the Realm Tournament Series, you are qualified for the event. You just need to go and fill out the Google Doc that was emailed to you as being somebody who is qualified for the event. If you're not qualified, there's also a 10K on Saturday that is Classic Constructed, and a Sunday Team Sealed, which is a 5K event. Bright Light Team Sealed. I'm really interested by Bright Light's Team Sealed now. Like very interested.
Yeah.
And I have a good team too, so this will be fun. So this is again another warning. Show up. There's a cosplay contest. There's different games being played. Come see fucking Corsham.
I got to see the ongoing construction of it this past weekend, and it actually looks pretty cool.
Pretty good.
They're doing a good job.
Yep. Two hyper talented individuals are spearheading that. So great. So yeah, please, like this again, it's not even asking, it's telling at this point. Just show up. It's going to be well worth your time and will be an absolute fucking banger. I'll be there. Darick will be there. You'll have Flake there. You'll have Elaine Hammondtree and Carolina Alvarado. You'll have all of the just basically the entire family will be around doing crazy shit all weekend long. And plus, it's a Realm event, so you know that they're going to do really, really fun stuff. So please show up and come hang out with us. It'll be a great time. Also, speaking of great times, the next FAP After Dark for our patrons will be October 25th. Kind of same bat time, same bat channel, probably aiming around that 9 o'clock Central Time at the latest type of start time, 8:30, 9 o'clock Central, so 9:30, 10 o'clock Eastern. And we will, this time with Bryn, who hosted the last episode with me from the Banished Zone, as well as the host of the first FAP After Dark, our buddy Greg will be joining the desk as well. And Charmer will probably make a guest appearance with some scorching hot take at some point in time. So
Probably not. No, I don't attend these things.
that's why do you lie to me? Like, I listen to you. Show up at the last one and start talking shit like immediately.
I don't know. I don't remember that.
Right. Okay, great. I guess that's another thing. But yes, every patron of Flesh and Pod, regardless of your support level, so just even at the $2 a month level, gets to listen in on those. They are not recorded. So which a lot of the non-recording is, one, that way it's for the patrons. Two, sometimes we might say something that, while we're not ashamed of it or is really horrible in any way, it's just something we don't necessarily want to be recorded for future use in depositions or testimony. Just kind of throwing that out there. But, we're not always clear on the statute of limitations. But yeah, so next episode is a week from, the week from the Wednesday, if you're listening to this on the Wednesday, but October 25th will be the next recording there, which is conveniently also going to be the Wednesday before we record episode 100. So that'll be another fun one too. We're going to hit 100 episodes if we don't die before then.
I can't make any promises.
Okay, well, we tried. That's all. That's all.
Both teams played hard.
Both teams played hard. Absolutely. We only have one listener question this week, so we're going to go ahead and just handle that. It's from Donnie K, who asked, "Is LSS dialing back new heroes / sets too much at release? I get that they're very forward focused, but Vincent and Prism were big letdowns." And there's some community concern I've seen online, never read online, about whether or not any of the Bright Lights heroes will actually be good. It seems like a really dangerous gamble to hype the community up for new heroes and only get half of the new hero up front before they slowly trickle in support cards for them. What are your thoughts, Charmer?
I don't disagree that it's a gamble, but I think that it's a necessary gamble. I don't think that you want to print too many heroes per set, because then I don't think that each set will contain enough support for them. I also don't think that you want to go too far without continuing to support previous heroes, because as we know, and Azalea is a great example, right? Sometimes you release a hero and even with a decent amount of support, it's just not good enough and you need to revisit it. And then suddenly they're good again. So you don't, I think, want to go too spread out in your design. I think that each set you want to have some intentionality. So like part of it is like, you have to remember that there are a lot of things that go into set design. I'm sorry. I was trying to keep this not going long-winded, but we're just going to do it. Strap in if you're listening. You're going for a ride. All right. Sets, when they're designed, are designed for everybody of every different play style. Okay. So when you are a game designer and you sit down and you want to design a set, you have to remember that your set at any given point should likely be a good experience for new players for onboarding and retention. It should give support to Blitz. It should give support to Classic Constructed. There should be a tidbit or two in there for Ultimate Pit Fight. And you also want to make sure that your limited experience is also very, very good. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, hey, that's not always been the case with Flesh and Blood, and we know that. But they've been actively trying to make it better as a result. That's why we are moving away from the supplemental sets. That's why Outsiders was definitely intentional. This set is definitely intentional. And whether you like the Mechanologist only that class or not, you can at least objectively look at this and say, hey, this was done with a level of intentionality to have the, crack packs and play experience, to have a unified draft experience, to support some older classes that haven't got love in a long time, aka Mechanologist, while also introducing some new heroes, and so on and so forth. So is it a gamble? Yeah, anytime you print any set, it's a gamble whether or not it's going to be a hit. But I think that there are things that LSS is doing that are trending in the right direction for the long-term health of the game, which is to really help with onboarding and retention and the limited play experience. When I think about what we just recently got in terms of what I would describe as traditional sets, so not supplemental, not Dusk Till Dawn, I have a lot of gripes about that one, and I will be very candid about that. But when I think about Outsiders and I think about this newest set, Bright Lights, the limited experiences have been very good. I think the card pools have been good, and the support has been good. And yes, when you release a set, there is always the chance that nothing will catch on. There's the chance that some heroes just might not be good. But I've said this before. That's kind of been the case with every set, right? Every set has good heroes and bad heroes when it releases. You go all the way back to, Welcome to Wraith is like the one example of an exception, but that's because it was the only set. And it was kind of muted a bit in power level because it was meant to be the beginner introduction to the game. But then you immediately go to Arcane Rising and it's like, Azalea wasn't exactly a hit. You go to Monarch and it's like, okay, well, Bolton and Levia were both kind of memes, right? There's Combo Bolton, but even Combo Bolton didn't really take off till later sets, more supplemental stuff coming on. You go into Arya, and as much as like Lexi's dominating the scene, like, let's be honest, a lot of people tried very hard to make her work when that set launched, and it just wasn't getting results. And so on and so forth. So there's always going to be stuff that doesn't hit, even in Outsiders, which is a set I really, really love. Riptide, for example, feels pretty bad right now. I think that there is definitely a world where Riptide can be good. I think he has very unique mechanics, and part of it is going to be meta dependent, and part of it's going to be him getting one or two more new tools. But again, not everything's going to be a hit right away. It's more about, are you creating design space for you to grow into? Are you creating interesting and new design space? Not everything is going to hit and stick, but I think you have to be willing to take risks, right? Are you trying something new? Are you trying to attract new players? Are you trying to make the game accessible? There's all these questions. And so, yes, do I think it's a gamble? Absolutely. But I think that it's a requirement. And I am personally very encouraged by what I've seen. Now, I don't think we're going to get a lot of only one class sets. We might get one or two more just because of the way the design pipeline works. Obviously, Bright Lights is their first attempt at this. It's, there's a lot of people are very happy and a lot of people not very engaged with it. That might make them rethink things as far as their further development pipeline. There is a chance. Obviously we don't know the details, but there is a chance, hypothetically, that maybe Heavy Hitters is an all brute set. But I don't think that that's going to be the norm going forward. I don't think we're only ever going to get single class sets going forward. And I honestly think that even Heavy Hitters will probably have at least two classes. And it could even have three. They could do the Outsiders thing again and have it be Brute Warrior. And I know some people are going to, groan when I say this, but Guardian potentially as well. Like, if they started that design when they saw the writing on the wall for Starvo and Oldhim, then, perhaps they were saying, okay, we'll do Heavy Hitters and we'll do a crush focused Guardian that's more offensive. And then we'll do, Brutes, and we'll do offensive focused Warrior, or maybe an Overpower Warrior, Meat Axe, whatever. And then, they might give us adult Kasai, but they also might just reprint young Kasai the same way they gave us Benji. Right?
Sure.
They could give it the Outsiders experience. But overall, I just think that our sets are going to look going forward a lot more like Outsiders and Bright Lights has, and a lot less like Welcome to Wraith Arcane Rising. And I think that's overall good for the game. That's my long answer.
Yeah. So my quick hitter to that is, let's look at what after, effectively what after Worlds, what living legend, what heroes are probably going to be living legend or on the cusp. So Prism, Starvo, Chain. These aren't in order of going out. Otherwise it'd be Chain, Starvo, Prism, Oldhim, Lexi, or Oldhim, Briar, Lexi, Icelander. What do all of these have in common?
all of them have in common?
Time's up. They're all talented heroes. Every single one of them
Yeah, I guess they are, huh?
is talented. Yes. Because talenting heroes was probably a bad idea the way they did it when they did it. Instead of a slow trickle to try to experiment, it was a deluge. And so you had especially Starvo. But Starvo's problem was that when they were testing Starvo with full powered chain and full powered Briar legal. And so without ever hitting those, they were like, and Duskblade legal and chain, by the way. And they were like, yeah, this is fine. This is the problem, though. If you keep power creeping from that base, these other heroes will never fucking be playable.
Yeah, no,
Ever.
you have to sunset that and then realign
Reset.
your power level. Yeah.
And I think they're gun shy because honestly, they lost so many players that I played with because Starvo was gone that fast. They built Starvo and because like it's the best thing to be doing. They played Starvo, and within months, the hero that they spent the money on to build in the game was gone. They got months out of their investment to play this game. And you could say, well, yeah, that was a bad choice. Sure. I mean, you could, if you could read the tea leaves, I guess you could say that it was a bad choice, but you also could have been saying, like we did at the start, that how many people are not going to quite get this right away and build it, and then the rest of the world catches on, and suddenly you're still caught holding the bag. That's not reading the tea leaves. That's just okay, well, this is something I want to be doing, and oh shit, now everybody's doing it, and next thing you know, the thing you did is gone. If you do that in every set, or if you start trying to do that in every set, you're just going to hemorrhage player bases after a few months. That is in vending terms, and like the world of TCG business, especially in the buying and selling market. When you're sitting down, when you sit down across from me as a vendor, my first thought is going to be never, ever, ever kill the sheep. You can shear it, never kill it. Because once they have that bad taste, they're never coming back. And even the metaphor is not calling the people sheep. The metaphor is, if I do well by you, and the next time you have something that I want and you're looking to sell it, you're more likely to come back to me because I didn't try to fuck you. Like, I have pointed at a card in somebody's binder and said, what do you need out of that? And it was like a $600 card. And they're like, like, could you do 150? And I said, no, but I can do 400. Because that's the right fucking thing to do. And in this case,
I mean, I don't know. Business ethics says otherwise.
But they came back.
But this is also why I work in nonprofit.
Sure. But they came back. And I made my money. I'm not worried about that part. But I want them to return the next time they have something to sell. I want them to go, yeah, that place took care of me. I'm going to go back there. Because that is something that is necessary to be operational, is repeat customers, this retention. And you can't retain people if there's no confidence in the heroes that are coming out, that they'll be around in 6 months. So, yeah, I think that you have to do it this way. You have to get a hero, get in some investment, and then trickle out support and push. Don't slam the fucking levers. Gently move them, but don't just like, fuck it, shove. Like, that's a bad idea. Don't do that. And they've done it a few times. It bit them in the ass every time, and they've learned their lesson. And that's why we're getting things the way we are. And yeah, right now it's a bad optic because we're not that far removed from these super souped up heroes that we had. But eventually, as those are gone, it'll calm down. Things will look a little bit better. And a lot of these things that aren't playable right now will be playable. That's it. So yeah, I think they're doing the right thing. I think that this is the right tack to take, personally. Got anything else?
Yeah, so if because I want to try to be full-bodied.
Oh,
in this experience.
With a bold nose.
If I have any concerns whatsoever, it's less about the trends I'm seeing and how they're, printing heroes in sets, and more about the very short term, because I also am going to acknowledge that this could change in the future, but the kind of like very short term ways that some of the new heroes have been treated. And it's entirely possible this is also by design. So what I'm getting to is Teklevasen. All right. Teklevasen is a powerhouse into physical heroes. Like if you're playing a defensive fatigue Teklevasen, he can be a nightmare. But he just auto loses to any arcane damage, because he's got no way to deal with it. The minute that you slap AB on him, you've abandoned like your entire Evo game plan for the most part. It becomes that much harder to fatigue because you lose slots. Because it's not even just about like you lose the one equipment, but if you're running even just like bare minimum, right? Like let's say you're running 3 of each of the red and the blue base Evos, right? And you're like, okay, well, I'm going to swap out my gloves. Okay, well, you also are now sideboarding out a minimum of 6 cards.
Right.
Right? So that's per slot. And because all of your weapons are two-handed in Mechanologist, you can't also run Lantern or do things like that. And so getting yourself in a position where you can even just AB1 for Rune Blades, let alone for Wizards, is a nightmare. And the problem is his playstyle is not aggressive enough to just say, okay, well, I can't stop their damage, so I'm going to race them. That just doesn't exist. So it feels like a hard auto loss. And I'm just extra sensitive because I'm somebody who's played a lot of Guardian, and I played through the era of I was good into most things, and then it was just an auto loss into Prism a lot of the times. Not to say I've never beat a Prism, I have, but it just feels that way. Teklevasen is lining very much up like that, right? So I don't know how they're going to address that in the future, or maybe they don't. Maybe they're just saying, hey, he's so strong into physical that he needs some sort of hard counter. I just don't like when my matchups are that polarized. It feels like a really bad play experience. One of the reasons I love Flesh and Blood is that I feel like there's very few non-games, right? It's the reason I came over from Magic. I don't want to have non-games. And I definitely don't want to have like the land screwed, land flooded experience, because that adds to the non-games. But right now, anyway, and it's also possible, maybe I'm just building him wrong, right? Or maybe the support's not there, whatever. But right now, Teklevasen feels like he just is getting really hard whipped by arcane stuff. So if you're listening and you have an answer, head up my DMs. But
slide on in.
That would be my one short-term concern, right? It's less about like, hey, it's all mechs and whatever. But I'm mentioning it because there is a chance, right, that some of the Bright Lights heroes don't show up until later because, again, of some of these meta situations, right? As long as Icelander is still in the meta, I don't expect Teklevasen to do well on a large scale, for example. Somebody might figure out Max or Dash, put up, some numbers, but there are some things at play that will also impact the performance and how some of these heroes do. That are unfortunately nothing to do with the heroes themselves and everything to do with the other heroes that exist.
100% agree. Like, that just makes sense to me. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and thank some patrons.
You should do that.
I should do that. So let's thank some patrons. Let's thank our associate producers on up. We have Alex, Andy, C-Dubs, Syndra, Kenny, and the Salty Sea Cat. For our executive producers on up, we got Blaze Storm, Dom, Josh L. Let's get ready here. You ready?
Sure.
Lance Goodthrust.
Lance Goodthrust.
Perfect. Matt Two Tokes, Pox on us. Papa Mike. Philip, Rich, Taylor, and Trevor. If you are interested in becoming a patron of Flesh and Pod, you can go to patreon.com/fleshandpod. Link is in the show notes. There are 6 tiers to choose from. All tiers get you access to the Patreon exclusive FAP After Dark episodes. We are trying to do them monthly-ish, but there'll be 2 in October because we missed September. But we're trying to, make good on that as much as we can. Schedules are kind of a pain in the ass sometimes. We'll have a cast of characters that will be coming on from time to time to just come in and regale us with stories of complete lunacy and debauchery. It's a good time. So please join us there. If you have any questions, concerns, comments, really anything, you can always reach us at fleshpod on Twitter. You can also just email us at fleshandpod@gmail.com. Or you can join the Discord, and that link is in the show notes. Go ahead and just and then shoot us a message or make your comment in the Discord. We won't be mad. I guess it depends. Charmer, where can they find you?
They can find me getting mad in the Discord.
Right.
Because how dare they?
How dare they?
How dare they? They can find me posting in the Discord, just like during us recording this. I posted a very cool video about a t-shirt. So I encourage you all to check it out if you haven't seen it by the time you hear this tomorrow.
I'm not even going to tell people what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's a t-shirt, and I hope they enjoy it.
You're right. It's a t-shirt.
You can find me on Twitter at that Charmer. That's Charm3R. I'm also just Charmer on like Twitch and YouTube. If you go to charmer.com, then there's links to all my stuff. I'm pretty accessible. I leave my DMs open on every platform because
you like bots?
I am a straight white male, so I have a lot of privilege. I don't have a lot of people who just like slide into my DMs, and I acknowledge my privilege. I don't have to worry about many unsolicited things, and even when the bots do show up, I know which keywords and phrases to avoid, unlike some of my friends. So I'm good.
One fucking time. But you had to exercise that privilege this past weekend, didn't you?
I did, yes. You know what? I didn't even tell my wife about that. On the way to the Alpha Clash event that I was casting along with Logan on Sunday, I may have been pulled over for doing 17 over the posted speed limit, but I was let off with a warning. And everybody was shocked. Apparently that just doesn't happen down there. But as I explained, I have a privilege and I know how to exercise it.
Yep, you sure do. And you did.
I did.
Congratulations. But yeah, you need to tell Sophie that one. I think she'll probably get a kick out of it. You can find me on Twitter at Logan Peterson. Otherwise, I'm the one behind all the Flesh and Pod socials anyway. So if you reach out to Flesh and Pod, you're just going to find me. So easy enough. Again, any concerns, comments, please send them to me. Any complaints will be forwarded directly to Flesh and Pod Legal, which is a subsidiary of Black Hole Legal, which is still the trash can next to Jordan Kennedy's desk. I don't think I have anything else. You got anything else?
No,
I'm good. Our short episode went 1 hour and 22 minutes.
Yeah, I laughed when you're like, hey, it's a short episode. And I was like, the fuck it is.
All right, that's good enough for me. I'll talk to y'all next week. Bye.